Some of you Trump supporters really are concerned that the Republicans in the Senate aren't going to have the backbone to stand up to the Democrats, and that President Trump may actually find himself guilty, or I should say found guilty, of impeachable offenses and thus being removed from office based on Republicans crossing over. Let me explain the Trump 4D chess move which is in progress. The way the Constitution is laid out, the House of Representatives has the sole authority, the sole power to impeach the president. They're the ones that are supposed to bring in witnesses, do an investigation, come up with facts, come up with charges, come up with evidence that supports the charges, make the case. And then they can find that they have reason to believe that what the president has done has violated the Constitution, violated the law, thus raising to the level of high crimes and thus an impeachable offense, and he needs to go. That is solely the responsibility of the House of Representatives. But once it is handed off to the Senate, it becomes the Senate's job to be literally the judge and jury, to take the case that they receive from the House of Representatives and make a factual finding of either a yay or a nay. Yes, there is a case with evidence to support it. No, there's no case, and you got no evidence. That all said, Nancy Botox Pelosi, trying to, at the last minute, add additional witnesses like John Bolton, thinking that's the new smoking gun. And then, of course, we've got this other Ukraine dirtbag operative that's claiming he was, in all types of high-level confidential meetings. And look, I have pictures to prove it. I had my picture taken once next to David Copperfield in an event. Am I supposed to hold that picture up and say, yeah, me and Dave, we're like really good friends, and we like talk on the phone, and we like hang out, and okay, there's a photograph of President Trump standing next to the guy. Do you have any idea how many people in this world, in this lifetime, have had their picture taken with Donald Trump, whether as a celebrity, whether as a real estate guy, whether as the president? Do I think that he even knows 98% of the people he's had his picture taken with? No. And by the way, nobody sane does either. So that, again, another smoke and mirror show. Some got a little disheartened that Lindsey Graham, appearing on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace, said that he had hoped that they could pass in a resolution to just on its face of these charges, just move right to an acquittal now, but there just aren't the votes. And then he said something that caused some people some concern. And, we really do hope that there are the votes to acquit the president after the trial, but anything can happen. And right away, people went into, the Republicans are going to cave. The Republicans are going to cave. We know the Republicans are famous for caving. I got that. But it is an election year. The Republicans know there will be hell to pay if they cross the line on this. Even, witness protection Romney knows, stay in line here. Some of you are wondering, is Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, are they gonna pull off some kind of little stunt that on the outset it sounds like they support the president, but they really, at the end of the day, they want to protect that office, and I'll tell you why. If they fold here, this can happen even when they get the guy they like, a well-establishment type of Republican in there. So they don't want to set any precedent. And I'll tell you, Mitch McConnell does understand the rule of the precedent. So don't be disheartened. Let me tell you what's going on here. From the beginning, Donald Trump has wanted there to be a trial in the Senate, an opportunity for him really to make his case. He wants Hunter Biden. He wants Joe Biden. Remember, the entire Trump rationale for that phone call to the president of Ukraine was twofold. One, to congratulate him on being elected, and then to call him on, hey, you ran on a campaign of ending corruption in your country. Great. Are you looking into the corruption that even involves Americans within Ukraine, i.e., Hunter Biden, son of a vice president, receiving $83,000 per month from one of your entities, one of your companies over there, receiving $1 million a year in a field he had absolutely no expertise or experience in? Was he selling influence to your country through the Obama White House via his daddy, the vice president? Now, we know how the Democrats want to paint this. He's trying to take out one of his political competitors. Joe Biden is no competitor. The president has a duty and a responsibility to make sure that corruption is not being done in the name of the United States government. So he was within his presidential powers and prowess to make that phone call. That's one. Two, think about what they keep saying. This president's guilty of treason. He's guilty of bribery. Blah, 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 ad nauseum. He hasn't been charged with any of those things, though. They talked about quid pro quo. They didn't charge him with it. They talked about bribery. Didn't charge him with it. They talked about him basically abusing his authority as the president for a personal reason. Didn't charge him with that either. They charged him with obstruction of Congress. Psst. They should have really talked to some lawyers and some judges, even judges and lawyers who don't like the president, and they'll tell you there's no such thing as obstruction of Congress. Shazam, Batman! So, the president wants an opportunity to make his case. Now, right from the beginning, Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and some of them signal this is going to be really fast in the Senate. We want this fast, over and done and out. Glenn Beck, of all people, and I'm no Glenn Beck fan, called out Ted Cruz on, do we really want this fast, or do we really finally, once and for all, want to get rid of the deep state and the swamp? Well, of course, Ted Cruz doesn't want to do that. He's part of it. But Ted Cruz knows the jig is up among the Republican base, among conservatives, among people like us. So right now, Ted Cruz understands that the president wants trial, and he wants to bring witnesses. And this is good for the president. This is not about dragging it out into an election season to weaken the president. This is the president wanting to now drag it out on his terms. Nancy Pelosi didn't want to send over the articles because she wanted to be able to continue in her warped mind, drag this out where she got to continually set the narrative, thinking that that would somehow work. But it didn't work. It backfired on her in a huge way. So now that the articles have been kicked to the Senate, this can be dragged out under the president's terms. He gets to set the narrative because now he can make a case and provide a defense, which he couldn't do before. So with all that in play now, Ted Cruz is going to bat for the president that yes, if the Democrats get to call witnesses, then so does the president, one for one, and the president can call whoever he wants.
This week is going to be the first time in a year that the president has had the opportunity to defend himself, to lay out the facts, to lay out the law, to lay out the actual substance. We've seen months and months and months of a one-sided show trial from House Democrats where they didn't want to hear from the defense, where they shut out the White House, where they shut out the minority. The good news is in the Senate, what I'm confident of, is we're going to have a fair trial. We're not going to give in to the kind of games that House Democrats have played. Instead, we're going to give both sides a full and fair opportunity to present their case. The House managers will have every opportunity to stand up and to present their arguments, to put forth whatever evidence they have. But for the first time, the president and the White House defense team is going to be able to walk through the facts and substance, and I think that's a very, very important development.
Let's talk about your reciprocity resolution. So if you were to go down the road of witnesses, you want it to be reciprocal. Tell us about that.
Well, that's right. You know, it's kind of strange how we got here. So Democrats have been having hearings, have been doing impeachment for months in the House. They brought in all sorts of witnesses. They blocked the minority from having any witnesses. And then as soon as we get to the Senate, the Democratic talking point is, we want more witnesses. Never mind all the witnesses they called before. They want yet more. And they're trying to delay this. They're trying to drag this out. They want this trial to go on forever because they have a political objective of attacking the president. What I've said and what I've urged the conference is, listen, if we go down the road of witnesses, we're not going to do what the House did. We're not going to have a one-sided kangaroo court. Instead, we're going to respect reciprocity. What does that mean? That means if the prosecution gets a witness, the defense gets a witness. If the prosecution gets two, the defense gets two. That means if the prosecution gets to call John Bolton, then the president gets to call Hunter Biden. And I got to tell you, the Democrats are terrified about seeing a witness like Hunter Biden testify because they don't want to hear evidence of actual corruption, potentially of Joe Biden, corruption that occurred during the Obama administration. They blocked all those witnesses in the House. They're not going to succeed in blocking them in the Senate. If they want to go down the road of witnesses, that means the president enjoys the rights to due process, which means he can call witnesses and lay out his defense.
Kellyanne Conway, also in what you call just good old-fashioned common sense and I dare ya, she really tipped her, I was going to say signs, but then that'll get all the baseball people freaked out over, Houston Astros cheated, and now people have been fired, and more people had to be fired for stealing pitch signs. Oh, for God's sake, I am so sick and tired of that story. Grow up. Stealing signs in baseball is part of the game. Oh, no, they stole signs, and then they had a way of communicating from the dugout to the batters what the pitcher was going to do. They were tapping bats in code. Even if they were, so what? It's part of the game. Then the pitcher and catcher need to switch up the signs. Duh. We got real problems going on. We have a corrupt Democratic Party that's tried to pull off a coup and unseat a duly elected president. And what is it that the media demands justice on? Some rich people out in California that paid money to get their kids in college. Wow, that's really a shock. Nobody thinks that ever happened before. And what's the other big news event? Some baseball managers cheated. They stole pitch signs and communicated it with the team. Oh, for crying out loud. Grow up. It's part of the game. That said, Kellyanne Conway today tipped that the president is playing 4D chess. He is effectively goading this for there to be witnesses now introduced in the Senate so that he gets to have his say.
All right, so Kellyanne, give us some idea of what we're about to see as far as the White House brief that is due by noon today.
Well, I was just with the legal team upstairs. They are confident, they are prepared, and they're really anxious to do what was denied the president in the House proceedings. Argue the facts. People are saying that we're only talking about process. That just is not true. They're going to have a full-on defense, which will be a great offense on the facts, on the substance here. The president was denied witnesses in the House proceeding. And if the Democrats really want to go down that road and have witnesses, then we're going to have reciprocity in those witnesses.
You just met with the legal team.
I dare them.
You just met with the legal team.
I dare them. I just saw them upstairs. Yes, near my office. They're next door to me. Sandra, the fact that the Democrats want to go down the road of possible witnesses is what our grandmothers always told us. Be careful what you wish for.
Have no fear. This is all being done at the behest and request of the president. His legal team is ready. They are going to tear into whatever Adam Schiff and Jerry the Nads Nadler try to present. And I'm telling you, whether or not they are for Trump or not, the Republicans, even within the establishment portion of the Republicans in that Senate, know they have got to vote acquittal. Because if they don't, not only are they not going to ever be reelected again, but this will happen again to somebody they really do want. And they will have set the precedent. And they won't set that precedent. That said, thumbs up It's gonna be okay. Hey, make sure you give us a big thumbs up on today's video. We are starting to grow again. There's still a shadow ban from YouTube. Thanks, guys. But you guys are doing a great job in spreading the word. It's getting out. And YouTube has had to kind of lift that shadow ban a little bit because they know we're on to them. And, you know, some of you are not necessarily new subscriptions. You are resubscribing because you've been telling me about it. So thank you very much. Make sure you check your subscription status to this channel. YouTube has a tendency to pull them. And make sure you check the notification bell that you're being notified that I'm ranting.